Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome to Football Manager 2023. I am so excited to be bringing this series to you. It's a big series that I've been working on for a long time, and finally, as the game has gone into full release, I'm ready to bring it to you. All right, let's get straight into the premise, the story, and then we'll get into the gameplay. So, the premise, we're setting up a challenge here. It's not all going to be impossible, but we're going to set up a near impossible scenario initially, and then we'll have one big thing going for us. So the near impossible scenario is facilities are all on a score, a range of 1 to 20. 1 being the worst thing imaginable. Level 20 is state of the art, world class facilities. We have a 1 in everything, our youth rating, our training facilities, all of it across the board. There's no staff. I have no players whatsoever. I am going to be the only staff member at the beginning. I have the lowest level in badges, a beginner coach. So, with all of these obstacles in front of us, let's throw in some more obstacles. Reputation. Club reputation plays a big part. If you are Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, you come calling, people pick up the phone. They listen because you have a high reputation. You are more likely to attract players than if a championship club came along and said, hey, we've got an opening. We'd love to sign you. Players are less inclined to listen to that because you have less of a reputation. You're not playing in the top flight. You're not playing European football. You're not playing, continental competitions, wherever it may be. Reputation is huge. In this game, it is 1 to 10,000. We start with a reputation of 1. In England, there are 6 tiers playable in the game. It goes much further than that in real life. It goes easily down to 10 tiers, and in a couple places it goes down to, I believe, all the way to a 13th tier is what I've heard. There are mods out there to play 10 tiers, and we're not going quite that low, but we are going to go into that 6th tier, Vanarama National League North, where we face a real prospect of relegation because we have a reputation of 1, and surrounding us are teams with reputations much, much higher than that. The 13th tier teams have a better reputation than a 1. The 10th tier teams have a much better reputation than a 1. And the 6th tier is significantly higher. So we have no players, and we're looking to put a club together that has to survive this first season. It's going to be a fairly epic first season challenge. Now, I said it's not all bad. There is something good. We do have an advantage. We do have something going for us. But we have to survive in the meantime because the thing going for us is going to be 1.5 years away. A year and a half from now, we are going to have a world-class, state-of-the-art stadium. I'll come back to that stadium in a moment, but we have to survive a year and a half without it. Oh, and we don't have money right now. We have a $50 million loan that we are paying back. That's going to come with a price tag of roughly $300,000. We got to come up with $300,000 a month in the meantime for the next year and a half. Well, having a world-class stadium with a reputation of 1 is not a good combination. But we have the most loyal fans out there. They will come through thick and thin, no matter what our reputation is, no matter what level we're playing in. We will fill out, or just about fill out, our stadium. So the world-class stadium will be a huge benefit, and it will provide us the funds we need to grow. But we have to survive that year and a half in the meantime. So in the meantime, we have a 12,000 capacity stadium that we are playing within. It's not our own stadium while we are waiting for our stadium to be built, to finish building. but it's going to be filled out as well. Now, revenue-wise, it might bring in about $400,000. We've got to pay for everything else. Gives us a little bit of money, and it might get us started. It might. We're not going to come out very far ahead, but we'll see what we can do. We'll see what progress we can make in the first year and a half. Obviously, tackling that survival piece, especially in the first year. We might get a little bit better in year 2, and the January transfer window, maybe, just maybe, we can start making things happen. But we still won't have a reputation. Could take a while. It could take us a long while to get out of the 6th tier. All right, now, that's the setup. Here is the background story to go with it. We are Newton Heath. Now, Newton Heath is and was a real club. Newton Heath today is known as Manchester United. Now, Newton Heath was the original club formed in 1878 for the Lancashire and Yorkshire Railway, LYR. This railway had a factory in Newton Heath. They formed a club. That was most of the clubs back then. They were workingmen clubs in the 19th century. This club formed. Later on, they combined with another club. When they came together, they became Manchester United. Now, today, Manchester United is a club with a very storied past. The most championships in the Premier League. Love them or hate them, Manchester United is a very big club. Even if you do love them, you can very much hate a thing that has been going on with them for the better part of 2 decades now. And that is the Glazer ownership. Now, if you don't know the background on it, let me be brief. The Glazers are very much hated. They are a club that leveraged and bought Manchester United, or an owner group. The good reason that they are hated has to do with how they came about. It was a kind of a hostile takeover, and they ended up a big chunk of the purchase price was leveraged through loans. So they didn't buy the club outright. They put a little bit of money down and then bank loans to buy the club. And the club hasn't been quite the same. That they were quite good for a while, but Old Trafford has not been updated in a very, very long time, though there's plans maybe in the work. They've been rumored about them for a few years now anyway. Besides going from a team that was perennial contenders for championships and now have hardly won a trophy since the retirement of Sir Alex Ferguson. Outside of what happens on the football pitch, what happens off the pitch, Manchester United is the richest club in the sport. And yet, that debt still exists in roughly the same amount that it was the day that it was taken out. The Glazers have pulled gobs and gobs and gobs of money out of the club in profits and still haven't even paid off those loans. And the interest rates are astronomical. So the club could have had world-class player after world-class player after world-class player based on those interest payments and those loan payments alone. And yet they continue to not pay it off. So fans are frustrated. Fans are very frustrated and have been protesting for years. Long story short, they're not happy. And the unrest has increased over the last couple of years. Recently, the richest man in all of the United Kingdom, Jim Ratcliffe, who, after his failed bid to buy Chelsea, has attempted to purchase Manchester United from the Glazers, only to have it shot down yet again. Fans are unhappy and have been unhappy for a long time. The source of their protests has been shown through the history of the club as Newton Heath. Scenario here, Jim Ratcliffe steps up and is building a stadium. Shown on the map here, I've found the perfect place to put said stadium. Also, very nearby is the stadium that we were going to spend our first year and a half in. It's actually a rugby stadium. However, Manchester United reserves have actually played there in that stadium for a couple of years in the past. It has been used as a soccer stadium, so it's a perfect fit for our needs for the short term while we wait for the stadium to be built. The stadium, New Trafford. Of course, why wouldn't it be? In honor, of course, of the stadium that didn't see any updating. Here's the key thing about it. Old Trafford, it's a carbon copy, just brand new. Same seating capacity. We're going to fill it out. We're going to see what we can do with the Premier League's biggest stadium at whatever level we're at the time that we get it. I would imagine that's still going to be the 6th tier as long as we survive that first season. And we're going to see what we can do with an influx of cash. Now, the $50 million in debt is still going to be there. Ratcliffe steps up, builds a stadium. He'll be the chairperson of the club, but he's not a rich benefactor. You're going to be relying on the stadium to make things happen. Let's see what we can do with delayed influx of cash. Nothing up front. Can we turn this into a competitive club? Can we climb the ranks? Can we get to European club competition? Can we outdo the club which everybody is protesting and coming over to support this one for? I'm Decathlon Gamer. If you are interested in seeing eventual outcome of this series, please take a second, drop below, click that like button, hit subscribe, leave some sort of algorithm comment. I do have a much smaller YouTube channel than many of the ones that are out there, and the algorithm actually the last couple of months is just inching its way into actually getting me out there a little bit, but just. So you may be seeing my content for the very first time today. Many of you are still my longtime returning subscribers and regular viewers of other content on the channel, such as F1 Manager, Pro Cycling Manager, or previous Football Manager editions, just to name a few. But please, it really helps with that algorithm if you're able to do that. Okay, let's get into it. First thing we need to do, I need to get some staff if I can. There's no reputation, so we'll see if we can get somebody. And we need to get some players. I think we're going to start with players that are free and not already on a team because, well, we don't have any money right now. So let's see what we can do. Across the board, everybody's looking for us to avoid relegation. So am I. So, hey, sounds good. Build reputation, make progress on and off the pitch. Same sort of idea. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with the new supporter culture. We eventually have some players. We're going to be looking to fill things out with a 4-2-3-1. Control possession, work the ball into the box, and then press when we are out of possession. Play a little bit higher up, try to recover that ball quickly, but not crazy on the pressing. Going into the staff search options, it turns out that realistic hirings for literally everything comes up with 37 potential people that are willing to work for us for free. But at least there are some options. And I do have some vacancies, so we'll see what we can do to fill these. A good start. An assistant coach would be a great start, and we only have one option. I'm guessing he's very bad, and he is. He is quite bad. First thing I know I need is definitely a scout, so we've got one who's willing and able, and he's terrible, but we'll take him. We'll see how quickly I'm able to get them all brought in, but I have 4 agreements for staff that are all willing to work for nothing as they're trying to get experience in the industry. Volunteers. Okay. Well, that's a start. Let's see if I can start wheeling and dealing to try to get somebody to come in-house for a trial. One thing we're going to keep an eye on, the supporter profile. 418 followers on social media. They have very little support on the board. We have 3,000 season ticket holders. and nothing on the waiting list. 91% are kind of in that core group of either family, core, or hardcore fans. Not much are casual or fair weather. So, again, that kind of points out to our expected attendance. As stated before, reputation and attempting to avoid relegation is going to be the key factors for the team and the vision that we have. Before I have the scouts hired, I have upwards of 130 players that are free agents and would want to sign. And that's one of the advantages you have of having free agents out there is, you're more likely to get them. Now, I don't know what ratings there might actually be. This seems to be a little bit of a holdover to the game. There's not much here. But let's start with the ones that seemingly would be good choices. You can only get so many players in on trial at a time. After that, I'm going to start going position by position, trying to get all of them in on trial, and then quickly make a decision on the weaker options, eliminate them, and kind of go from there, hanging on to the ones who look a little bit better and give them a chance to stick around so we can identify them a little bit better and then try to sign on the ones. It's all we can do. We have no roster. We're basically just holding a big tryout, position by position, with anybody who's willing to come, because we don't know anything about anybody. One day after getting 27 players in on trial, well, the obvious thing that stands out to you is that this group at the bottom, not good enough. Clearly nowhere near good enough. I don't care what the potential is, because we are literally a club with a reputation of one. Anything looks good. And if they are this low, they will never be good enough. So we're going to go ahead and axe that group, which starts to free up space to bring in a revolving door of more choices. Then you hang on to these a little bit longer to start identifying, get through that attribute masking and learn a little bit more about them. It does seem like we do know a fair bit about some of these players, and maybe these 4 are worth taking a look at a little bit more. We've got a couple target forwards, couple poachers. Of course we do. Does not surprise me one bit that we have. Look, these strikers are almost all poachers. Why wouldn't they be? That's if you ask me, that's the weakest type of striker out there. It's the weakest forward, is someone who's just right place, right time, and taps it in. That does not make them a complete player at all. A target forward could be a little bit better. A couple 16-year-olds that are seemingly already there, but have no room for growth. 22-year-old with room for growth might be a good thing, might not. We'll look at those, but that's how we're starting this process. The bar has to be set somewhere, and from the first grouping of players, there's 2 standouts already. Kyle Sharp, Nathan Smith, 5 stars in comparison to what's here, which of course there's no one here. They're the best around. So if they're the best around, we're looking at okay-ish players that can compete at this level. Okay reflexes, good sweeper. That would be good for our style of playing high. He's determined. He's got agility. Jumping reach of 9 isn't fantastic or anything. Handling of 8 isn't that great. Communication's only a 5. Command of area is a 6. Aerial reach is only a 6. If that's fantastic, we're in trouble. We're in trouble in this first season. But that's the whole point. We're going to try to squeeze enough points, enough results to stay alive, to avoid relegation. So, we'll start by getting the benchmark. We'll get those couple guys. As amateurs, nobody's getting paid, which means they can get swept out away from us very quickly, very easily, but they're not actually that good. One of the first things we're going to need to try to do is get the board convinced that we go semi-pro. Otherwise, we're going to have players coming in and out fairly often. But the easy thing is we don't have to pay anybody. That's going to make those finances go the right direction sooner rather than later, and hopefully not in a year and a half before we start to get something happening. Maybe we can get something happening earlier. Knowing that there is a goalkeeper on that upper echelon, we're going to keep the others, the better options around, because we're going to need more than one. Give them time, reveal the attributes. These three down here. By the way, I've also moved on to our next position, right back, as we continue to fill out. Looks like we have a handful of players down here that we could actually probably... Our first preseason game is against a Welsh team in the lower divisions. I don't know quite how they would compare to us, as I don't know the Welsh leagues well enough for that. Also, we have a very incomplete team right now. We literally have one player signed, and he plays a position that doesn't even fit our formation. Kyle Sharp, center mid. We have defensive mids. We have attacking mids. We don't have center mids. So Kyle Sharp actually not good as a defensive mid. He would have to learn the position. So great start for our first player signed. But as you can see, defensively, we're looking a little bit okay with all these guys on trial. A lot of these filling in are either strikers or defenders kind of filling in out of position. I'm a little surprised that the striker who is assigned here, just not very good as a complete forward. Might have to make some changes, as we definitely do have some other options. The rest of them are already in the game as wings. Maybe we'll shuffle them around as we go. Here's our first look at the stadium that we are going to be renting for the next year and a half. And you can see we've got a fairly good crowd on hand for a preseason match against a nobody, when we ourselves are very much a nobody. Now, of course, tactically, nothing suited. These guys are all just on trial and happy to be here and happy to be able to play. So expectations for me are pretty low for this one. But like I said, the defense are kind of right guys, right position, and we want to get a little bit of a look at them. DeSegni, based in England, but he's an Italian player. He does not have nationality, so I'm not sure if we can even get him signed officially. I'll take a look at that one before we would opt for that. So far, I have brought in goalkeepers, right backs, and left backs. Now, I have not brought in center backs. Two of these guys are fullbacks who also play center back, so they are starting in those two center back spots today, as I have yet to sign anyone. Also, FM23, if you've not seen anything on it yet, there has been updates to the way that the AI plays, and the midfield area in particular is a lot more chaotic. Now, that is terrible from Smith. Smith is supposed to be a sweeper keeper and absolutely did not sweep on that occasion. That was his ball. That ball was in the air, in the box. It did not touch ground. It was just outside the box. But that's an easy grab for Smith on the hop at the edge of the box. Either way, even if it's not, even if the other guy gets to it, he's got to challenge that. Shot department was all us. It's halftime already. Wow, okay. Well, the good news on that is we weren't totally outclassed, outplayed with nothing but a defense. Robert's looking okay. Nobody else playing particularly well. Got a goal there from Sharp, so our man has actually managed to do something. Again, he's not suited to the position, and that's going to take some time, but he is showing off that he's got some skill here. Great bending effort there to get around two teammates and two defenders and get that one in the corner. Nice goal. It's 1-1. Started to make a few substitutions along the way here. Smith beaten quite easily again. Not an impressive start for him. We're going to get Owens in, see what he can do. Desegni. Another mistake from him. Missed header on that occasion. First look at some of the potential players. Not necessarily impressed by much here. Nice run from Allen. And he levels the score just after we give away the lead. And we level the score again, so a lot of back and forth right now. What I am seeing on the stat sheet is that we are out shooting them 3-1. At least by a wide margin anyway. We are creating a lot more, and we're doing that with a midfield and forward group that is completely out of position. We're not giving up a lot of shots, but they're scoring most of the shots they're attempting. And some of that's definitely on the keeper. Some of that was a couple mistakes from the center back as Jenner goes really close. That gets blocked, sent out for the corner kick there. Still have a chance to win this. It's just a friendly, and really doesn't matter. That's offside. It's in. Flag raised though. The game we just finished, we don't know what the comparative level with the Welsh leagues are, but let's just assume that was probably even lower than our own level. Like I said, we're 6th tier of 10 or even 13 English levels. I mean, 10 packed levels. So there's a lot lower level than what we have. I have a feeling what we just went up against is something that would be equivalent of those lower reaches. We probably should have beat them 6-0. So to finish with a draw, even if we outplayed them, is not necessarily a good start. But we don't know for sure where we're at this point. What we do have a check on now for the first time is the finances. And it's preseason. Our first good quality check will come after the season starts and you have proper home matches. We had a stadium that was nowhere near full. I'll check on what that attendance was here shortly, but I'm assuming it was only maybe a third, because that's how preseason works. And that's still a good turnout. It still brings in some money, but not enough for the issues that we have now. The club had some funds very quickly as season tickets were being, but the loan repayments, not actually $300K. The translation to dollars is 240,000. So it's actually even a little bit better than what was expected on that. But there's still additional fees, this, that, and the other thing that add up pretty quick. Already, July 2nd, with one home preseason match, we're looking at expenditures closing in on 300K. On the income side, and again, this is a stadium only way full, if that, it's not the same thing, right? I mean, we only brought in about 40K for that one. Multiply that by 3, and we're not where we need to cover the expenses as of yet. So could be problematic. Let's hope it's closer to a quarter or less of stadium capacity. And it is. It's roughly a quarter. We had 3,100 people out of a 12,000 seat stadium. So that was 1/4 of what to expect. So multiply that by 4 and things look a bit healthier. It's still not quite on the 200K side. And when you've got to overcome 300K a month, that means you need at least those 2 home games, and we could cover things off fairly well. Both areas are coming up a little short of what the expectations were, but I did some tests with FM22 to see where we would be at. And it looks like I do have it fairly well balanced. 2 home matches per month, regular season, should cover expenses. If you have a third one month, or if you have one the next month, over time that balances out. But assuming that a typical month, 4 matches or more, and half your games are at home, it should just about work out. We'll see how that goes on keeping things fairly balanced, but that does mean we're going to be strapped for cash for a year and a half, confirmed. So back to the club and the philosophy before we wrap this episode up, this very first episode. Yes, we have signed Kyle Sharp, and yes, he doesn't quite fit positionally our needs, but you need better players to build a reputation to sign better players. The better the player you have on the roster, the more likely players are to come in. Reputation has so much to do with that, not just the quality of the players on the roster, but they do look at how they compare. If they're going to come in and be leaps and bounds better than everybody else, they're going to think, gosh, I'm too big for your club. I should be playing somewhere else. What I am going to get out of this, though, is that because we are an amateur side right now, we definitely want to get semi-pro as soon as we possibly can here. At the very latest in that year and a half, as soon as we move into the stadium. But what we have with these guys, what we have with this group, is an endless supply of players we don't have to pay and that we can part ways with in an instant. We can also lose them to others, but I don't think we have the quality to even worry about that, because the 7th tier and below, where all of these players should probably be playing, those teams aren't active. We're in the lowest level. So teams above us aren't going to be poaching these guys away from us because they're not good enough to poach. We have to hope that we can get players that are just good enough to be competitive against that group, which means they're unlikely to want to poach them. And quality as a whole, tactically, we can, pull off the upset here, scrape by enough points, and then eventually get into the semi-pro status and pay guys proper so that other teams can't just sweep in and take those players out as we get better players that are more equivalent of the level we are in. So I don't foresee it being a problem in the short term anyway, that we're an amateur side. And the other good thing about it is because we can part ways so easily with these guys, I don't have a problem over signing. Also, the development side. We're an amateur club. We practice 2 days a week. We have terrible coaching. Yes, I've hired 4 staff members now, plus myself, but the coaching's terrible. The amateur level's terrible. The players themselves are terrible. The training facilities are terrible. It's all the worst it can get. My expectation is that there will be no development. Just period. We're not going to develop. We are going to have to find bigger and better talent as we go on, and we're going to have to just beat teams through tactics, through luck, to scrape by. Therefore, I don't have to worry about age necessarily, and unless they are like Ricardo Fuller, Jamaican with national team appearances, 42 years of age, going to be slow as molasses and getting slower as we play, and already just a poacher. And actually, you look at his stats, he's not good. He's even mentally, he's not great. Guy has played at very high levels, but he's not there now. He's already down to 5s in acceleration, pace, etc. Doesn't look to me like a good signing. But the age thing shouldn't be a big deal, shouldn't be a concern. I will get whatever player I can get, because I'm going to go with the assumption that none of them will be in 2 to 3 years, and all of them are free, and so we're not going to get stuck in bad contracts. Therefore, signing the 2 or 3 best goalkeepers, no problem. Signing the 2 or 3 best right backs, no problem. We will do that for each and every position. Because again, fuller roster isn't going to hurt training when training's not going to matter anyway. They can get worse. We don't want to overdo it. But that's why it's easy to part ways with players as you go along. Okay, well, from this first group, we have 3 positions that we've brought in on those trials. To go through them one by one, positionally, compare head to head, but of course we're still waiting on attribute masking for a lot of these guys like Owens. Oh yeah, we're getting there, but we need time, and that's the problem. Time is not on my side. It's July. We start games in a month and 4 days. Kings Lynn coming up first, and we need to have those guys signed by then because all of these trialists can't play. But like I said, that's easy to overcome. But the problem is signing the right player is going to depend a bit on the attribute masking potential, as we kind of get through and sift through what they are. So again, need time, don't have time. Complicated situation for that one. So we're going to have to do our best to kind of eliminate players that don't look as good as some of the others. They might actually be the right player for us, and that's the worrying thing there. But we're going to have to eliminate as many of those as we can so that I'm not just working on 3 positions for the next 2 weeks to move on to 3 more positions following that. At that point, 6-7 guys signed, and then have to turn around in another 2 to 3 week window to fill out 3 more positions. That would get us to our first match of the season, 6 positions filled, not 11. We are going to have to somehow push the envelope a little bit to get feedback and get something going in terms of the loop. As of right now, we're about 1 week into the playthrough, and we still know very little about half of the players that are here. You know a fair bit about a lot. It looks like we've got some standouts, maybe like Dixon's not going to be good enough. He's got pace. That could be useful. And he can finish. So he would be a better option than, like, say, Ricardo Fuller, who is going to stand there and do nothing. And then even when he has a ball, he's not going to do much better with it than you would see from Dixon. Dixon at least can maybe run to it and outrun somebody and be a part of something. Lots to think about, lots to do, and I try to at least figure out the first 3 positions for us as we go to start episode number 2. I am Decathlon Gamer. Thanks for tuning in. If you didn't do so earlier, please take a moment, drop down below, click that like button, subscribe if you have not, and leave an algorithm type comment. Let me know what you want to know about the series, whether you think we have a chance at survival in this first season, or whether it's going to be completely hopeless. Let me know. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.